For more, we are joined by Florida Congresswoman Paulina Luna, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You're the perfect person to address some of the ongoing questions we have. How do you see the operation, first off, just affecting our relationships in Latin America?
Well, look, it's no question to the American people that Latin America, for a majority of some of these countries, has been run and operated and owned by the cartels. And so there have been a lot of support from our allies. And then, of course, our foes and the ones that are guilty of, again, being run by organized crime are more concerned, or you're seeing in Mexico's case, vehemently condemning it. But I would like to kind of get to the fact that right now what President Trump did, in addition to liberating the people of Venezuela, also to, I believe, has, ensured Marco Rubio's safety. A lot of the American people are unaware that a couple of years ago, when Secretary of State Marco Rubio was then a senator, that Nicolas Maduro had actually put out a hit on him. And that doesn't just go away because he became Secretary of State. So I think Marco Rubio is sleeping well tonight.
Yeah, I believe so. He's probably very tired. He's had quite the day, as have everyone in the administration. Congresswoman, I want to address your colleagues. They are very upset on the Democratic side, believing that they should have been notified ahead of the operation. Secretary Rubio saying that that wasn't possible due to the nature of it. Would you, Congresswoman, have liked to have been notified ahead of the operation, or do you understand the reluctance to do so?
Well, first of all, you know this, Tommy, but most members of Congress, especially the Democrats, tend to walk right outside of a skiff and then they'll leak right to the press. And so given that, obviously, we wanted to avoid American casualties, I think that the administration knew exactly what they were doing, but also, too, understanding that the president has the authorities to act in the way that he did. He's obviously protecting American citizens. And again, I'll just remind the American people, some of my Republican colleagues in both the House and the Senate have pointed this out, and our own vice president, but Nicolas Maduro is a narco trafficker, and he's been charged as such. And he literally put out a hit on the Secretary of State. So I think that the president didn't have to get congressional approval or authority to do what he did.
Congresswoman, can I come back to the impact and in the sort of future of what this does in terms of impacting Latin America, the Western Hemisphere? Obviously, the president has made a strong case that this is in America's interest because it's in our Western Hemisphere to drive the influence of our adversaries like Russia, like China, who have grabbed a stronghold there when previous administrations weren't paying attention or looked the other way. Do you see this as having a massive impact in the Latin American world?
I do. I think it's a very strong message to the international community as well as to other countries that, again, were force-feeding our country drugs. And after this administration made multiple requests and tried to come to the table in regards to negotiations with Maduro, and that failed, I mean, ultimately, they had to act in the best interest of the American people. But what's been also interesting to note is that a lot of the mainstream media, with the exception of Fox, has not been covering the positive reactions from the people of Venezuela. And what we have to understand is that Maduro is not an actual recognized president in many European countries. The international community, for the most part, does not recognize him. So he wasn't even rightfully elected. In fact, he just overstayed his welcome. And so I believe that what this administration is doing, I think that they're acting in behalf of and on the best interest of the American people. But I also understand that they don't really have long-term intentions of being down there, and that they are looking to ensure that the handoff goes smoothly and then hopefully bring our guys back home.
Congresswoman, I want to bring up Mexico here. The government there has criticized this. The president has suggested in the past that the U.S. could go after cartels in Mexico unilaterally. Do you think that's a good idea?
You know what? If she had a backbone, she would be asking for our help instead of doing it behind closed doors. The government of Mexico is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and it's a shame. They had one of the bloodiest election cycles this past cycle, and they killed journalists that were covering it. They've killed their own elected officials that were actually trying to fight the cartel. So I really don't care what the president of Mexico has to say, because in my opinion, she's only in that position because she's been installed. And if they actually had a good president, you'd see Mexico not being run by cartels.
The UN will be taking having an urgent meeting tomorrow and discussing everything that's going on down in Venezuela, and many countries will be able to weigh in and hear their concerns. What do you expect to hear from the Latin American countries and also from the South American countries that are here in our hemisphere?
I think that a majority of them are going to be split. You'll see our allies in Argentina and El Salvador backing what the president has done. And then you're going to see the countries that, again, are predominantly run by cartels and corruption that have a drug-based economy condemning what the president did. But for the UN to be weighing in on this, I mean, look, the United States, and I have my own opinions on whether or not we should stay a part of the United Nations, because we all know that they're guilty of human rights abuses themselves on their Human Rights Council. But ultimately, I think that this president is leading right now the free world. And so I think that many of our countries also in Europe understand what happened, and they will continue to support the United States position on this matter.
Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, thank you very much for joining us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
God bless you guys.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.